Hey, good evening. Sorry, getting a few audio and Facebook issues out of the way tonight and made me just a little bit late, but hopefully everyone can hear me okay. I'm going to be jumping back and forth between a couple of screens tonight because I'm going to try and see what everyone's saying. And bear with me because Facebook has about a 30-second delay from when I see something on my screen to when you see something and when I can respond to you. So if you have questions, I'll get to those. But basically tonight we're going to take a look at the storm. Interesting stuff going on. Um, Depending on who you're listening to, if you're looking at some of the social media channels, if you're looking at even some of the TV stations or National Weather Service, everyone's got a little bit of a different take on this storm. And I'll sort of show you why as we get into things tonight. But first things first, we like to go over the weather watches and warnings. So as you can see, winter storm watch is up. This runs from midnight Saturday, so technically Sunday morning, very, very early, um, through Monday. So let me double check because these times are kind of all over the place here. So yeah, midnight, late Saturday night, early Sunday morning, midnight through 6 p.m. on Monday. So pretty long duration event here. It's not going to be a quick mover per se like the last one where it's just going to come in and dump a bunch of snow and then get out of here real quick. This thing's going to linger a little bit. So as you know, when we get storms that linger like that, depending on how they set up and where they go, we could either see a little bit of snow over a long period of time or a lot of snow over a long period of time. But the commonality there is the long period of time. So you're looking at snow moving in sometime early Sunday, early to mid morning. Timing we're still working out a little bit on that. But basically, your impacts are going to be late Saturday night all the way through Monday afternoon or Monday evening. Um, we're going to tighten those times up a little bit more probably tomorrow and get some of the higher resolution models in and the shorter term stuff. But that's what you're generally looking at right now. So um, if you're traveling, whatever the case is, I think you're going to be pretty good Saturday evening, Saturday night. But as you get a little bit later in the evening hours towards, say, 10 or midnight, if you're out past that time, that's when you're going to have to start watching out for things. Interesting storm setup here because you have the possibility of freezing rain coming in late Saturday night, and that kind of concerns us a little bit with icing conditions, and then you're going to have the snow on top of it. So, as you know, rapidly dropping temperatures with initially wet roads means you probably get a flash freeze at some point, and then you're going to pile some snow on top of that. Going to make for a tricky drive, so something to be aware of there. I'm going to throw this graphic up on the screen. This is a snowfall forecast I did earlier this morning. Hasn't really changed. There's been a lot of model bouncing up and down, and even with the ups and the downs, this is sort of where I'm still at this evening. So there's been a lot of temptation to bump these up a little bit, but there's just the models have been consistent, but they're backing off a little bit tonight. And they could jump up again tomorrow. They could back off even more tomorrow. We don't know what they're doing yet, but they've been pretty consistent within this range for the most part. So no reason to change it right now, but it's something I'll be watching for, especially tomorrow when we get a little bit more model data in. But these are general amounts. It's going to be spotty, just like the last storm, and there's probably going to be a decent gradient. So if you're kind of, Douglas County area west of I-25, you might see slightly more. If you go east of I-25, you're going to see slightly less, and then that gradient kind of follows out into the plains. So as you get further out east, you're going to see less of a snow impact out there. Might see more of a freezing rain impact, so that'd be something to be aware of as well. But these are good amounts. These are still what I'm sticking with. I haven't seen any reason to raise them just yet. You'll notice that they're a little bit lower than the National Weather Service, which is cool. My forecast doesn't always match with theirs. But the spottiness of this storm, as far as where the snowfall goes, means that you could end up anywhere within this range. So, you could be at 3 or 4 inches on east side of Castle Rock. You could be at 6 or 7 inches on the west side. I mean, there's going to be really sharp gradients and really sharp spots. So something to be aware of. Mountains are going to do generally pretty well with this. I think your higher peaks along the Continental Divide, you could see well over a foot. Some of the mountain valleys, Fraser, Granby, those areas, 4 to 8 inches is pretty realistic. Some of the ski areas will do really well. Breckenridge, 5 to 10 inches. But as you can see, there's a similar target area from the last storm where it's really zeroing in on those foothills locations and the Palmer Divide locations. So there's similarities in that respect, but the difference is I think Denver sees more out of this storm. Number one, because the air is going to be a lot colder, but number two, you'll have that setup where you're going to get a little bit more moisture in there. So like I said, these are good numbers to go by. Some of the models, even the short-term models, drop the storm completely. But like I said, they tend to bounce. So when I see one model drop a storm completely, I wait for a couple more because it's not worth changing your forecast on one model bounce. So you don't want to do that. Let me take a look at some of the models. I'm going to show you models. And I'll show you kind of what they're doing and why I'm sort of not changing my forecast as of yet based on the models. There's some other factors here, different things we have to look at, but models are always a good start anyway. So looks like everyone can see this. This is the Euro model. This is the latest run, 18 Zulus. This is the noon run from today. This model updates every 12 hours. We get the data about 1, 2 o'clock-ish. But here's what it's looking at. And I would like to point out when it comes to different models, this one, especially as you get closer to storm, tends to be more accurate. Not to say that it's always right, but I got to say it nailed the last storm almost perfectly. So it definitely lends some credibility in that respect. But again, you can see it's not super excited about this. But it's been nudging upwards throughout the last couple of runs. So initially this thing was not super excited at all about the storm. Literally the point where, 0 to 2 inches for a lot of places. A lot of places around Denver got nothing at all. And it's been bouncing up, but it's been consistently going up and consistently staying sort of in this area. So if you look at, Denver, DIA, those areas, you're looking at, around 4 inches is possible. So you can say 2 to 4, 2 to 5. I have 3 to 7 because I still think it's possible that these models underestimate the dryness of the snow, the cold temperatures, things like that. So something to keep an eye on, but basically you're looking at higher totals along the Palmer Divide. Again, it's got a bullseye kind of in that central southern section of the Palmer Divide. The purples down here are, let me zoom down, get the color scale here. Purples are kind of that 6, 7, 8-inch range. The pinks are kind of that 8, 9, 10-inch range. So that's what you're seeing here. And again, sharp gradients. Bullseye kind of in that south central part of the Palmer Divide, west of Colorado Springs. So what this model is saying is not a massive storm by any means. And from a snowfall standpoint, it may not be a massive impact as far as the actual snowfall. But what I think the National Weather Service is more concerned about is sort of the combination of that freezing rain, that flash freeze, the snow on top of it, various different travel conditions throughout the day Sunday. So even though it's not a huge snowfall storm from what we're seeing right now, travel impacts could be relatively significant based on the ice, the snow, and the cold temperatures. So something to keep an eye on. Let's go to the GFS. GFS did okay with the storm, the last storm, but from a different time frame. So again, with these models, where we are in the forecast time frame of this storm, I wouldn't pay attention to the specific amounts terribly much at this point, but just look at the overall patterns. Look at what areas it's zeroing in on the heavier snow and the lighter snow, and what areas it doesn't think it's going to get any snow. Look at the different gradients. That's really what we're looking for in models right now. The exact snowfall amounts are just not there. We're not going to know that until probably a little bit later tomorrow. But anyway, GFS, similar pattern, heavier snowfall off in the foothills and the mountains, a little bit lighter in the mountain values, but that's sort of what we saw in the last one. And notice it doesn't really have the bullseye over the southern part of the Palmer Divide. This one has a bullseye more of the northern part. So you're looking at, Littleton and Highlands Ranch and Lone Tree and Parker. But again, you look at it, 5.5 inches, 5 inches, somewhere around there. Like I said, don't be specific with the totals, but look at the range. I'm still looking for 3 to 7, 4 to 8 in that area, and I think that fits in perfectly right now. So again, what I'm trying to get at here is, again, don't view the specific amounts as gospel, but just look at sort of the ranges we're providing here. So again, showing snow for Denver. So that's two models now, two decent models that are saying Denver's going to get something. They disagree on how much by a little bit, but we're looking at that. The northern areas, I think we'll see a little bit of snow out of this. There's a little bit of a difference here on how much. Notice the Euro's a lot more bullish on the snow in the northern areas, north of Denver, Fort Collins, Loveland, Greeley to a degree. GFS is definitely drying that out quite a bit, so something to keep an eye on. This model's fun. I don't pull it up a whole lot, and a lot of times I'll throw it out, but it's actually relatively consistent for once with the other two models I look at. So again, kind of in that 3, 4, 5, 6 inch range. Notice it's differing on the Palmer Divide quite a bit. It's pushing a lot more snow up into the mountains. Again, don't take this one as gospel by any means, because I think out of the three longer range ones, or longer range ones if you want to call them that, this one's not one of my favorites, but I throw it up there anyway. NAM. NAM is coming into range. NAM is not super excited about the storm at all. Literally the point of 0 to 2 to 0 to 3 inches for a lot of places. This model didn't particularly handle the last storm well, and it tends to bounce. So it's nice because it's a shorter term model. It gives us kind of a little bit more detail. It updates more often, but it tends to bounce. And that's why when you just look at this one, you'd say, okay, well, this is a write-off. Nothing interesting is going to happen with this. It's a bounce. So it's bounce down, it's bounce up. It's currently bouncing down. You can factor it into a forecast a little bit, but it's something just to look at. Last thing I'll show you out here is this is an AM3K. This is just at the very edge of its range. This gives us a lot more fine details. Again, similar pattern. Denver is showing a couple inches. You've got a little more focus on the western foothills here, west of Douglas County. Similar setup there. So something to look at. When we look at the Euro ensembles, this is something that's basically a blend of 50 different models. They put some slightly different parameters in there. They run it and they take an average. So you can see this is for Centennial Airport. It's the nearest station we got to Castle Rock. That kind of gives us data, but you're looking at a very slow, long, protracted period of snowfall. So literally from the time it starts to the time it ends, sometime late on Monday. This one's saying 5 to 6 inches. So again, fits within our range. Not a big deal there. So not too bad. So let's go to a couple FAQs, because we've got a lot of questions about this today, and I'm not going to have all the answers to them, but we'll try our best. And once I am able to scroll through this Facebook stuff a little bit, I'll answer some of those other questions too. So the big one is, should I cancel plans? As of right now, I wouldn't make any decisions, because you just have to see. We have winter storm watch, and that's something to take serious, but a watch means just prepare in case the storm turns out to be significant or have some significant impacts. Again, right now it doesn't look like a huge storm, but it looks notable. It's definitely something you'll have to consider. If you're traveling, the potential is there for some pretty decent travel impacts. So right now, would I cancel? No. If you have the time, wait till Saturday morning or Saturday around noon. We're going to have a lot better idea of how this thing is looking before you cancel. If you have to cancel now, if you have to make the call right now, do what you got to do, but just know that there's some uncertainty that we're still trying to deal with right now. So traveling through the mountains is another question that's come up. Travel in the mountains is not going to be fun, I don't think. Again, we've still got to iron out some details on exactly how bad it's going to get up there, but I think those areas west of Denver, just like this last storm, if you saw some of the news footage, you saw some of the cameras, people were struggling to get up Floyd Hill. They're struggling to get up towards Evergreen. There are crashes, spinouts. I think Vail Pass was closed at some point. I see a similar situation here. So if you have travel plans to the mountains, your best shot is going to be able to leave as early as you can Saturday and expect those conditions to persist from Saturday, probably sometime in the morning, all the way through Monday afternoon as well. So prolonged period of travel impacts up there. So if you have to get back down Monday morning, commute's probably not going to be fun in and out of Denver, but it's definitely not going to be fun out of the mountains. So if you can afford to get stuck up there, go for it. Otherwise, you may want to reconsider. Next one is airport delays. A lot of people asking about those, and I don't work for the airport and I don't know exactly what they're going to do. I'm just going to say in the past, when we've had storms like this where there's concern about big impacts, there's concerns about icing, different things like that, delays are likely. But not only that, your airline may decide to preemptively cancel or reschedule flights just so that they don't have planes trapped here in case it does get bad. So um, I don't want to blow this storm up to be something huge, but I don't exactly want people to just write it off either. We're somewhere in between right now, and we'll probably get a better idea here in the next 12 hours or so, obviously. But if you have travel plans, go into the airport, check your status before you go. Make sure that if they're canceling or rebooking, you have the opportunity to do that. So one thing to look at. Another one is, and this I get this question a lot, snow day for schools on Monday. No way to tell. Again, I can make educated guesses. If the snow does ramp up, the roads are bad enough, sometimes they'll just delay. Snow is not the only thing I think they take into account when it comes to delays. What makes it probably slightly more likely is the extremely cold temperatures we're probably going to have Monday morning, combined with the snow, combined with the icy conditions. I would definitely say keep a close eye on things Sunday night, and I think most of the school districts try to have word out by 4 or 5 a.m. Monday morning. So yes or no, I don't know, but would I be surprised if things work out how they're supposed to? I wouldn't be surprised. So don't take that as a yes or no. It's just my best guess. So another interesting question, a lot of people traveling through Wyoming, coming from Utah, coming from Idaho. A lot of people asking about Wyoming, and it's not really an area cover, but it's been asked enough that I'll cover it. Wyoming's not going to be fun either. They're going to see a lot of the same effects we are. They're probably going to see more wind out of it. They have a winter storm watch up there too. So check in with the Cheyenne National Weather Service. They've got some great graphics and some great updates, but especially I-80 going back and forth over Laramie Range is not going to be fun. Monday morning commute, I touched on this a little bit with the school, but it doesn't look fun at this point. Like I said, if everything verifies, I think some impact is pretty probable, pretty likely at this point. We're just still trying to work out details on severity. So, I brought a lot of my stuff home just in case. If Monday is bad, I wouldn't go out. Winter storm watch, if that gets upgraded to winter storm warning, winter storm warnings basically mean travel's not recommended. So keep that in mind. And it doesn't have to be, tons and tons of snow. It's just that combination of cold temperatures, getting stuff on the roads, ice, things like that. So something to look out for. And then finally, the next storm. You're hearing a lot of buzz about another wave of snow coming in probably late Tuesday into Wednesday-ish. So it's too early for details on that. And especially because when we get back-to-back storms like this, you can get some funny things happening. So I'm not going to really wager a guess on what that's going to be like right now. But if you're planning for it, look for some sort of storm system late Tuesday into Wednesday. That's rough timing right now. That could shift a little bit as we get closer. Impacts, we don't know yet. It may be nothing, it may be something, but just plan on something going on there. Okay? So anyway, let's see. I'm going to go back to, everyone loves the estimated snow. So I'm going to go back to that. I'm going to look at some of the questions over here. Let's see here. Traveling south, New Mexico, I-25 on Monday. That's going to be interesting. This storm, some of the models have it sliding a little bit further south. But if you're looking about on Monday, later in the day is probably going to be better to go south than earlier. It just depends on what the storm track does. If it drops further south, you could see a bigger impact south of Colorado Springs into Pueblo. I think what they're looking at on my last check, and I'll be honest, I haven't looked down that far south just yet, and it's something I don't usually look at. But since it's kind of a spur-of-the-moment question, I think definitely be prepared for some impacts down there. If the storm stays on its current track, I don't think it's going to be terrible. But if it slides south, if it moves east a little bit, if it does any host of things, they could see a bigger impact. So be prepared for a little bit of wind down there, a little bit of snow. If you are on Facebook, I would recommend if you're heading that way, look for Brian Bledsoe. He's a meteorologist in Colorado Springs. He's great at covering Colorado Springs and areas south and southeast of there. I think he just put a video up maybe about an hour, half hour ago. If you're going south of Colorado Springs towards Raton, New Mexico, anywhere out southeast, the Panhandle, Texas, Oklahoma, he's your guy. He can definitely fill you in on that stuff. And like I said, he had a video about an hour ago where he covered just that. So I could post it up there if you're interested. Um, there we go. So got a couple more comments. To all the people who say thank you for following along and putting up with my hobby that I'm doing here. And I love doing weather, so really no thanks necessary, but I do appreciate either way. Um, let's see, the last doesn't look too bad, less than the last one. Um, this one's tricky. I think if it sets up correctly, and it's looking like it sort of will, I think you'll see potentially slightly more snow than you did last storm, but there's even potential where you could see a decent amount of snow more than the last storm. So I think the biggest change you'll notice is if everything stays on track the way it's supposed to, Denver will see more snow. I think Palmer Divide will see about the same to slightly more than the last storm. Again, these are preliminary numbers. We're getting close to the storm, but we've still got some model bounce here we're trying to work out. But what you have on the screen right now is what I think is a decent preliminary range. And I think more than likely I'll come out with a new map tomorrow that's going to have some of the newer data, the newer models in there, and we're going to see these things shift. Whether they shift up or down, I don't know right now. It's looking slightly more likely they may shift up a little bit, not a huge amount. But like I said, this forecast is slightly less than the National Weather Service. If the model data supports it there, and again, those guys are smarter than me, so they probably know better than I do, but they're calling for 5 to 10 along the Palmer Divide and possibly even for parts of Denver, south and southwest. It may turn out I see that data tomorrow and they keep their forecast the same and I adjust mine up a little bit. So I don't really watch a lot of the TV meteorologists. I don't watch a lot of the social media people, but I do keep a pretty close tab on the National Weather Service from more of a raw data standpoint. So, as we get closer to the storm, you'd expect all these forecasts that everyone have that are different to sort of converge into a more tight-knit area. So mine may bump up a little bit tomorrow. We'll see what happens, but I'm not prepared to make that move so far just yet. So asking about school closings again, I did cover this just a little bit, and I know people kind of jump in and out of these streams. So I've got a couple of FAQs up. I've got this one real quick, but the snow day on Monday for schools, really no way to tell. The commute's going to be tricky, but as we know, it takes more than that to close schools. But what I was talking about is the cold air. It's going to be extremely cold, bitterly cold for October, where you'll have temperatures in the morning probably in the single digits to teens for a lot of areas. So if you get a breeze with that, if you get some wind, you got some extremely cold wind chills, and I think that plays a bigger factor combined with the snow in closing schools than just getting snow itself. It's hard on kids at the bus stop. It makes the roads in a lot worse shape. So is it possible? Yes, but I can't tell you one way or another, yes or no, especially with so much still kind of on the table with the storm. So my recommendation is just keep an eye on that Monday morning early. I think it's if things go as planned on Sunday and you get some of that heavier snow on Sunday, you might get an answer late Sunday. But I know a lot of the schools are 4 to 5 a.m. Monday, so just be aware it's possible. I don't know how likely it is, but it's possible. It could happen. Questions about the Tuesday storm. There's something there. Models are really struggling with bouncing on that one, probably more than usual. It's unusual for us to get 2 successive low pressure troughs bowling through Colorado like this. It's such a short time period. And I talked to Matt Makins, he's a meteorologist at Channel 2. I asked him because I saw something like this on the National Weather Service, but there's a huge storm that was a typhoon. And now I guess you could call it a extratropical cyclone. Anyway, it's moving up into the Alaska area, and it's just putting a huge kink in the jet stream. And it's interesting because that kink in the jet stream is actually kicking a lot of this cold air in these successive troughs down towards our area. So, teens and single digits to below zero is very rare for us in October. I can't remember the last time I've seen it. But because we've got these kind of kinks in the jet stream getting kicked down, you're getting a lot of Arctic air, which is unusual for October. You're getting a lot of these troughs and you're getting a lot of moisture. So I fully expect that we're going to end above average on snowfall for October. And I'm not just, Denver is going to be kind of 50-50, but I think Castle Rock and the Palmer Divide areas, when your average snow is 3, 4, 5 inches for a lot of areas, we already hit that with our last storm. We had a storm in early October that was about 2 or 3 inches, and then we got at least these two more coming through. So I know I digressed off your question, but the storm this week is looking interesting. I'm not prepared to say whether it's going to be significant or not, but it's just something to plan for. There is something coming in addition to the Sunday, Monday storm. There's something coming late Tuesday into Wednesday. Again, we'll shift the timing a little bit as we get some more models in, but just plan for that. Um, I'll play spoiler on this one. The models are excited about it, but I think they're maybe a little bit overdone on it. So I'm not going to get my hopes up too much for that as of yet. But that's something to keep an eye on. If it does happen that way on Tuesday, Wednesday, I would expect another impact to the commute. So I don't think Monday morning is going to be the only one. I think there's a possibility that there's going to be a few more impacts to the commute. So keep that in mind if you're able to work from home or if you got to bring stuff home to do it, you could do that. So Melissa asks, is this common for late October in Colorado? We're no stranger to snow in October, but the cold air and just the nature of these systems is unusual. And I don't know if you popped in when I was talking about the big storm out in Alaska, but as that's moving up there, I'll see if I can get some graphics for that maybe tomorrow. But there's a huge storm up there that's kinking up the jet stream. It's sending a lot of this stuff very, very far south into Colorado. So getting air this cold and successive, just rapid fire storms like this is kind of unusual. And a lot of people like to make the argument global warming, climate change, and I try to stay out of that stuff because we all have opinions and there's science behind different things. But this is one event, and one event does not give, one weather event is not climate. So you have to look at 30 years, you have to look at patterns. But for a 30-year pattern, this is unusual because that storm, I think, is stirring some stuff up in the Arctic and kicking it down this way when you usually don't see that in October. So it's interesting because originally I think when we were doing long-term forecasts for October a couple months ago, October looked very warm and very dry initially, and then it looked warm and wet. And then now, as we're seeing, it'll probably finish average on temperature, but we're going to finish above average on precipitation. And it's obviously when you're doing long-range stuff, you can't pick up these weird little storms that get up there and kink up the jet stream. So if you looked at, a lot of these long-range forecasts for October that they're putting out in spring, summer, whatever, a lot of them busted. So I've got plenty of opinions on long-range forecasts, but that's how it is. So Stacy's saying her daughter is planning on heading home to Steamboat on Sunday afternoon. I think it's going to be a rough drive on Sunday afternoon. It's going to be rough in and out of Denver. It's going to be definitely rough in the foothills. It's going to be rough in the mountains. I don't think it'll be terrible in and around Steamboat, but if you got to cross that Continental Divide area, I don't think it's going to be very fun. So again, my big takeaway from this is don't cancel any plans yet if you can afford to, but definitely stay tuned to the forecast, whether it's me or National Weather Service or even your favorite TV guy or lady. And we're going to have a lot more information about more specifics of the storm probably tomorrow. So we're going to get a good idea on the morning runs. I'll probably post something up about that, but I think in the afternoon is when we're really going to zero in on this stuff and see if they fall apart or the storm really cranks up or if it stays about how we predicted. So I wouldn't cancel a drive on Sunday. Moving it earlier, I don't think is going to help a whole lot. Moving it later may not help a whole lot. This is going to be kind of a long duration thing. So, if you can wait it out, that's cool. If you want to leave earlier, leave Saturday afternoon, leave Saturday night, but just be aware that Saturday night, the mountains could already be cranking up. So there's that. All right. So it looks like folks are jumping off. I think I've run out of questions and comments. So hopefully you like these live streams. I'm trying to get used to being in front of the camera more and stuff like that. I think I'm getting better at it the more I do it, but I haven't really ever been a in front of camera guy. But I'm trying to put this stuff together. So I do read a lot of the Facebook comments. When you have questions, I try to answer them on there. If you've got questions that I can do in a video like this, I always try to help with that as well. But generally, if you've got questions, put them up there. I read them. I'll address them either on here or there. And I'm going to try and do some more live streams here. Probably going to be another one up tomorrow. I don't know when yet, but I try to at least give like an hour's notice or something like that. But yeah, if you have any additional questions the rest of the day or rest of the night, I'll be around. Dan's asking, do you have a graphic of the kink in the jet? Let me see if I can find something here real quick. Bear with me just a second. I'm going to try and see if I can figure this out, find something for you here. Real time. 6.5 hours, mesoscale for North America. Bear with me, and if you're weather nerds, you'll enjoy this, but if you're not, you'll probably drop off from this. I don't know if I have a graphic available right now. What I'll try to do here, I don't even remember where that post is for. So Dan, to answer your question, I don't have a graphic for that right now, but I should be able to reply to you. So once I get off of here, let me go look for that. I saw it earlier today, but I did not save it. So I'm going to have to go look. But yeah, there's definitely a graphic available. I'll get it. I'll send it to you. But yeah, it's very, very interesting to see sort of the ridging, sort of the weird stuff that's going on in Alaska and how it's kicking down several low pressure systems with kind of these Arctic fronts and these Arctic air outbreaks that we don't normally see in October. Very interesting to see, and you can see it pretty clearly on that graphic. So there's that. A few more folks. Cool. Yeah, so to all the people saying thank you, like I said before, thank you for following along and putting up with me and dealing with my weather nerdery. I think I trademarked that word at some point, or somebody did. But anyway, I'll be looking at more data early tomorrow morning. I'll be looking at stuff into the afternoon. I'll probably have a post up in the morning just with what we're seeing, any changes, whatever. And then probably around lunchtime or someone early afternoon or somewhere, I'll probably do another live stream like this where I can kind of put everything up, show everyone where we are at that point, and if we need to make any change to timing, changes to impacts, changes to snowfall, that's probably when we'll do that. So again, thank you all for joining me tonight. I appreciate it. Thanks for putting up with me, and thanks for following along. Thanks for dealing with my weather stuff. And if you have any comments, questions, whatever, let me know. I'll try to address those as possible. And everyone have a great night. By the way, if you're out and about tomorrow morning or tomorrow afternoon, great time to get prepared for this thing just in case it does take shape. You can raid the store if you want. I think it's unnecessary for a lot of storms, but hey, if you need to do shopping, go for it. Tomorrow's a great day to get out and get things done. It'll be close to 70, gorgeous day, but you're going to notice that cold front later in the afternoon and evening. It's going to kick up some wind. Not terrible, but the temperatures will start dropping. So if you are going to be out in the evening, make sure you dress for that, because if it is warm when you start your activity, if you're out too late in the evening, it is going to get cold real fast. So with that, I'm going to get off of here. Everyone have a great night. Thank you for following along, and we'll kind of keep you updated as is necessary with the changes tomorrow.